All right. This is my submission to Noon. If you don't know Noon, it is a literary annual edited by Diane Williams, who's kind of like the, I don't know, the most like well-regarded like American avant-garde short story writers. Here's one of her books. And anyway, Noon is the best, pound for pound, pound for pound, the best literary journal in America to me. And I think it's well regarded. It's like people would more or less agree with that. The very cool thing is that they accept only physical submissions, which is something that I really wanted to play into in a way that wasn't distracting but alluring. And yeah, so Noon, their style is my favorite for short stories. They're highly language based, avant-garde, enigmatic, puzzling. That's the stuff that they like to publish, and that's my favorite short stuff to write. Almost like, I don't want to say like poetical sort of, but there is like a sort of a fascination with language that I think in a novel, to an intense degree is hard to sustain, but in the short story, you have the opportunity to really stun with language and imagery and like highly evocative moments and instances. So anyway, the form of it, I wanted to look as if it was a scanned book, essentially like an older book that someone had photocopied and scanned. So this is just the cover page, and then that is kind of like what it looks like. There's only 2 full pages of stories, and there's 13 stories. I just named it submissions, and I really like the epigraph. I feel like it kind of tells the story of what is to come. I don't know if it'll focus. It's from a Tibetan Buddhist, kind of adapted from a Tibetan Buddhist text. You wear a tiger skin, your face is fierce, your diadem, 5 bejeweled human skulls, come here from your heaven, accept my cake. I just love that. Anyway, so there are 13. I figured out the way that I could combine it in an interesting way is to have the titles be sort of almost a part of the text and be like coloned. So this is like boyhood colon, a note colon, boyhood 3, boyhood 2, boyhood 5. And anyway, yeah, I think, I had all sorts of hopes for what I wanted it to do, and that like any of these could be taken on their own. Like on the for your consideration, I said like some, any, or all of, and I highly doubt like they would have the capacity to publish all these exactly as it's formatted here, which is why I kind of wanted to show it, because I think it looks cool and reads really well together. But yeah, the big breakthrough, these were all separated into like 3 different containers entitled different things. Like these 2 were one story, and the different boyhoods, a lot of those I added once I kind of got this format of like the colon sections. But I did have some of them included in like something that I think was called like submissions or selections from submissions. That was just, I think, a precursor to this kind of form that I was getting into, but I couldn't quite know how to figure it out. And then there was this one called Plot, was a part of it, which is all one sentence, and like, in like a funny way, it's supposed to be like a plot driven. It's supposed to be plot, but there's this just like thematic, almost like if you're watching a movie, like plot in this instance is like, a piece of furniture in the scene rather than, this main underlying driving element of it, which is like, I don't know, funny to me, but also like it's alluring in the way that plot is treated. And then this one's called On the Situations Regarding My Family, and it's a 3-part story. Anyway, those were all separated, and I didn't know how to, like, I didn't want to send 3 different separate stories to Noon. I just have been kind of working on combining and making these in some way one living document. And I think the breakthrough was these like colon stories, and then once I started combining them in that way, I don't like the idea of interconnected short stories. I think it's kind of like, well, it's been done a lot, and what's more interesting to me is the like reusing or repurposing of like thematic elements and even specific phrases and lines, specific titles, and like this like it could give the reader a feeling of like a vague feeling of like recognition, but not the feeling that these are connected in any way, but the reader would recognize stories or elements within other stories or moments. So like some characters are reused throughout. For sure, the like the sudden appearance or disappearance of like an entity or a powerful being in very mundane day-to-day circumstances. That happens a lot. There's also this like oddly violent I don't know, I want to say like a violent kind of childhood, like all the boyhood stories have this kind of like naive violence and darkness in them. Not in like, I don't think we need any more like darkness or trauma in stories, but in a way that I think is like thematically alluring and whatever. I mean, I'm proud of how this turned out, both visually. I think it looks really cool and is not distracting, and whoever gets it over there at Noon, whoever receives it and reads it first, I pray that these pages are enough to make them just 1% more trusting of the work, 1% more patient with the stories, 1% more interested with their potential, and the like echoes that they create. I won't read too much of it, but maybe I'll read a couple of Boyhoods, maybe. So I really like Boyhood 2. It goes, at the observation tower, E.T. sucked the blood of Earth's people. I was watching with a few of the older boys, some of us on our knees. Now anxious, now to be losing the way, now to be forgetting myself. Such a boy prances along or pushes on for decades, now knowing where he is. What other one I could do? Boyhood 4. A satellite crash lands in my backyard. Kay whispers she wants to get married and have 3 kids with me. She asks, would I still love her if she didn't have any arms? She asks, what about when we first met if she didn't have any arms? Would I have loved her then? I attach 2 seats to it in my spare time. But we will most likely burn up really bad, she says, in the atmosphere. Not that I wouldn't like to try. Anyway, so for all watching, I'm going to send this in a manila envelope, address it to Noon, and I don't know if I have it. I'll show you before it ends. I'm going to show you what I'm going to put on the envelope, which will enchant this. So this was written for Noon. I'm hoping they will find it exciting and interesting. And if you could give it some good wishes that its initial reader is intrigued and maybe even, dazzled by it, and that the second round of readers are intrigued and taken by it, and that the third round and the fourth round, and that even Diane Williams wants to put it out in some fashion or form. Yeah, if you could just give it some good luck, good wishes, we'll enchant it together on its way to Noon. And because I really like and respect their operation over there, I'm gonna send it just to Noon for probably the first 6 to 8 weeks. I'll just leave it with Noon and then see what they say or don't say, and then take it from there before submitting elsewhere. But this spiritual home of these stories has always been Noon, and I really like their annual, and I think it's good to believe you've got a spot, and operate like you do, or else you'll just be overwhelmed by the terribly slim odds that are out there. So this is my submission to Noon, and let me find you what I'm going to put on the little my cat's walking underneath the tripod, so she's moving it a little bit, but let me find you for Alright, so under my phone case, I've had this little sticker for months, and I've known that I'm going to send it so it can enchant the piece. Little sparkly wizard. I don't know if you can see it. You can't really see it, but that's going to go on the little folder. And yeah, wish me luck.